The rain fell like needles on the cobblestones of Blackwood Street when Eleanor Vance found the letter slipped under her door. No postage, no name, just her address written in elegant, archaic script. Miss Vance, you have been named beneficiary in the estates of Alistair Crane. Present yourself at Crane House, 17 Ravens Hollow, tomorrow at midnight. Come alone, tell no one. Discretion is the price of fortune. Eleanor's hands trembled. She was a typist at a law firm, earning £6 weekly, sharing a flat with 2 other women, eating herring 4 nights a week. She had never heard of Alistair Crane. She should have burned it. Every instinct screamed trap, scam, danger. Instead, she found herself on the last train to Ravens Hollow, clutching her only good coat against the October wind. The house materialized from the fog like a bad memory. Victorian, gabled, every window dark, except one at the attic peak, where candlelight flickered against the glass. Before Eleanor could knock, the door swung open on silent hinges. "You're late," said a man's voice from the shadows. The figure stepped forward, 30-ish, sharp-featured, wearing a solicitor's suit that had seen better days. He introduced himself as Silas Marsh, and he held an identical letter in his hand. "They found me in a boarding house in Manchester. I'm a junior accountant. Never met Crane in my life." "Neither have I." They entered together, because the alternative, entering alone, felt worse. The drawing room smelled of beeswax and something metallic, coppery. A fire burned, though no servant had lit it. On the mantel, a clock ticked backwards. "Gentleman and lady," said a voice, and they turned to find an ancient man seated in a chair that hadn't been there moments before. Alistair Crane, if it was him, resembled a mummy dressed for dinner, skin parchment tight over skull, eyes like wet stones. You wonder why you are chosen. The answer is simple. You are nobody. No family, no connections, no one to miss you if you fail. "Fail at what?" demanded Silas. Crane smiled, and something in it made Eleanor think of graves opening. "My fortune is £11,000,000. Tonight I offer you each a choice. Behind the door to your left, a room containing £1,000,000 in gold sovereigns. Take it, leave tonight, and forget this house. Behind the door to your right, a puzzle. Solve it before dawn, and you split the entire 11,000,000. Fail, and you leave with nothing, including, perhaps, your lives." "Take the gold," Silas interrupted. £1,000,000. We could live like kings." "We could solve the puzzle," Eleanor countered. 5,500,000 each. "Or die trying." They looked at each other, 2 strangers bound by greed and fear. In Silas's eyes, Eleanor saw her own desperation reflected. She thought of the typing pool, of consumption taking her mother, of being 40 and alone in a rented room. "The puzzle," they said together. Crane clapped his hands. The left door vanished, plaster wall where wood had been. The right door opened to darkness. "Enter," Crane whispered. "The game is the inheritance of shadows. You will find 3 rooms, in each a riddle whose answer opens the next door. The final room contains the fortune and your test. You may cooperate or compete. The choice, like all choices, has consequences." They stepped through. The door sealed behind them with a sound like a coffin closing. The first room was a library, 10,000 books, leather-bound, dustless. In the center, a table held 2 glasses of wine and a card. "One of us tells only truth, one of us tells only lies. Both of us are in this room. Find us, and the door opens." Silas grabbed a book at random. Riddles, childish games. "Wait," Eleanor studied the card. "It's a classic logic puzzle, but twisted. Find us. The truth-teller and liar aren't people, they're books." She scanned the shelves. 2 books stood out, identical copies of The Anatomy of Melancholy, one with a red spine, one black. She opened the red. Every word was true, verifiable facts. The black, every statement was false, contradictions on every page. The wall between them slid open. Silas stared at her. How did you... I read detective novels, cheap ones from the lending library. You learn things. The second room was a gallery. Portraits lined the walls, hundreds of them, all the same man at different ages. Alistair Crane, spanning 2 centuries. In the youngest portrait, he held a pocket watch. In the oldest, the same watch stopped at 3:17. A note. I never began. I will never end. I am the father of terror and the child of hope. What am I? Eternity, Silas said immediately. Death. God. Too abstract. Eleanor walked the galleries, studying the paintings. The backgrounds changed. Rome, London, Paris, Constantinople, but always night, always 3:17 on the watch. Time, she realized, but specifically stopped time, the witching hour, the moment between today and tomorrow. She touched the oldest portrait's watch. The hands spun, stopped at midnight. The floor dropped away, revealing stairs. You're clever, Silas said, and there was something new in his voice. Not admiration, but calculation. The third room was the vault. Gold, mountains of it, coins and bars and jewelry, enough to buy kingdoms. In the center, 2 chairs faced each other across a small table. On it, 2 pistols and a contract. The final test. Sign the contract, swearing to split the fortune equally and take your gold. Or pick up the pistols. The survivor takes everything. You have until the clock strikes 3, 1 hour hence. Choose wrong, and the room fills with poison gas. Choose right, and learn what you are. Silas lunged for the contract. Eleanor caught his wrist. Read it. He did. The fine print gave all 11 million to Alistair Crane's estate upon the signer's deaths, natural or otherwise, with Crane's descendants as executors. It's a trap, she whispered. He wants us to trust each other, then kill us legally. Or he wants us to kill each other, and the survivor is murdered by his descendants. Either way, he keeps the gold. Then the pistols. Also a trap. The gas releases if we choose wrong. But what constitutes wrong? Eleanor studied the room. The gold was real. The chairs were bolted to the floor, facing each other. The table was exactly halfway between. Sit, told Silas. What? Sit, in the chair. Don't touch a contract or the guns. They sat. The clock ticked. 2:15, 2:30, 2:45. Crane said we could cooperate or compete. The riddles required cooperation. Your strength, my observation. The contract demands trust. The pistols demand betrayal. But what if... She reached out, not for the guns or contract, but for Silas's hand. Cooperation without the contract. Trust without the paper. We sit. We wait. We choose neither. 2:59, 2:58. The door opened. They found Crane in the drawing room, dead. Had been dead for hours, perhaps days. Rigor mortis set in, the smell of decay unmistakable. Yet they had spoken with him, seen him move. A younger man emerged from the shadows, Crane's spitting image at 40. My father, or my father's creation. He was an illusionist, you see, the greatest of his age. The fortune was real, earned through investments, hidden from taxmen and creditors, but he couldn't resist one final performance. And us? Silas demanded. You were selected through algorithms my father designed, lonely, intelligent, morally flexible but not corrupt. The test was never the gold. It was you. Your choices in the rooms determined your character. And if we'd signed, or fought, the gas was real, the guns were loaded. My father believed that people reveal their true selves when offered absolute power. You saw the frame. You followed her lead despite your greed. You passed. Passed what? Partnership. The 11 million is yours, managed through a trust. But there is a condition. You must work together, invest together, decide together. For 10 years you are bound. If either breaks the partnership, both forfeit everything. Why? Eleanor asked. Because my father believed that wealth destroys solitude, that the only fortune worth having is the one you cannot spend alone. The son smiled, and in it Eleanor saw the ghost of the old man's cruelty. He was a bastard, my father, but he was never boring. 10 years later, they sat in their office, Vance and Marsh Holdings, Threadneedle Street, reviewing portfolios. 10 years of partnership, 10 years of arguments, near betrayals, reconciliations. They had tripled the fortune. They had saved each other's lives twice, once from a bad investment in Argentine railways, once from Silas's brief affair with a woman who turned out to be a blackmailer. Eleanor never married. Silas did twice, divorced twice. They lived in adjacent houses in Hampstead, shared Sunday dinners, bickered over chess. On the 10th anniversary, they signed the dissolution papers, not to end the partnership, but to renew it freely. No Crane holding them hostage, just choice. "Why did you trust me?" Silas asked that night, drunk on champagne. "In the vault. You didn't know me. I could have shot you." Eleanor swirled her glass. "Because you did